Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I'm pretty excited for today's show. As we know, Economic Development Week was earlier this month in May. And I unfortunately didn't get a chance to talk to a whole lot of economic development key players here in Colorado that week, mostly because they were all busy. So what I'm going to do is an overview or a review of Economic Development Week. And I have a very special guest joining me by phone. This is Kim Woodworth. She is the Operations Director for the Economic Development Council of Colorado, better known as EDCC, because we love our acronyms here. So Kim, thank you so much for joining me. And how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having us today.
Yes, we are super honored to have you. So as you know, Economic Development Week was earlier this month, and it was an exciting time for you guys. And again, that's a national week that we celebrate, not just in Colorado. But let's go ahead and get an overview before we talk about Economic Development Week. I always like to have my guests know who our guest is and why you bring so much to the table when it comes to economic development.
Well, thank you. I have been in economic development now for about 10 years. I started working for the Metro Denver EDC and then moved on to the Economic Development Council of Colorado. And we are a statewide organization that helps support the economic development efforts across our state. We support our economic development professionals, our chambers of commerce, our councils of government, and we also help support local businesses that have economic development stakeholdership. And Economic Development Week was created by the International Economic Development Council in 2016 to increase the awareness of the local programs that help create jobs and advance career development opportunities and improve the quality of life in our communities everywhere. And over the span of the last 3 years, there have been over 450 campaigns that have been created throughout the United States and Canada, creating millions of impressions and hundreds of news stories and blog entries, videos, events, and all kinds of activities. Last year, we had all 50 American states participate. We had 40 communities that officially proclaimed Economic Development Week, and we continued that again this year.
Well, that's really exciting. First of all, congrats on getting all 50 states involved. I know here in Colorado we have quite a few organizations that are committed to economic development within their own locality. So, for example, as you mentioned, Metro Denver EDC, right? So we have some ones that are focused specifically on cities and others that are statewide, as you are with EDCC now. Talk about the process of getting everyone to the table for Economic Development Week.
So we start off by, of course, making everyone aware that Economic Development Week is coming up. And then we have partnered, for the last 3 years, we've partnered with our partners at the State Office of Economic Development and International Trade. And we come up with our own Colorado-specific campaign. And in years past, we've talked about collaboration and regionalism, why economic development is important in our communities. And this year, we focused on the importance of economic development, but more so in investing in economic development, especially during good times.
Oh, yes. Well, I guess this might be a question that's pretty late to be asking, but how do we define economic development? Those are great words, and obviously the economy is important, and developing economies obviously are money makers, but what exactly does economic development entail?
I'm so glad you asked. Economic development is really a coined term that people use very loosely, and it's very important that we define what it is. It's really an intentional practice of improving a community's economic well-being and quality of life. It includes a broad range of activities to attract and create and retain jobs, but also to foster a resilient, pro-growth, tax-based, and inclusive economy. The practice of economic development comprises of a collaborative effort involving our industry, community organizations, government, and a myriad of community stakeholders. So we really become more of a ringleader to really help and support, businesses that are starting, growing, expanding, as well as relocating. And it's important that we, really, put our community employees, in our communities to work, and also broaden our job base.
Awesome. And as you know, Colorado has been able to brag about our very low unemployment rate. So I think one of the bigger things is that the employees are running into is they still need employees, right? Even though lots of our residents here in Colorado are employed, are working, and putting money back into the economy, employers are still having a hard time to find people to work.
That's very true. We really have a tightened labor force at this point. We're starting to, of course, see the boomer population is starting to retire, which is a very heavily skilled-based workforce. And we have a tightening of the labor market when it comes to that skilled labor force, as it was touted that it was so important for you to go out and get a college education and have that 4-year degree in order to be able to make a really good, living for yourself. But that isn't the case, really. We are really trying to get out there and let everybody know that you don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree to have, really good livable wage. In fact, some of these livable wages in the skilled labor force is actually higher than what you would normally have in a 4-year degree. But we don't, of course, it's not for everybody, the 4-year degree. Some people, do really well thriving in a workspace learning situation. And for those people, we really encourage them to go out there and find those opportunities through their, junior college to the community college system, as well as your trade-skilled work-based learning.
Oh, absolutely. I, for one, am personally a huge advocate to take a year off, a little bit of time away from school after you graduate high school, and decide if going into the workforce is right for you, or if you just need a certification for one of those trade jobs, or if community college might be better. It's half the tuition rate, and you can get a plethora of jobs with an associate's degree that are on par or on course with the same amount of pay with a 4-year degree. I agree with you. Not everyone's path is cookie cutter, and so we need to make sure that we're open to those. That being said, Kim, I want to ask you, we know that there's different in the metro area versus the rural area when it comes to economic developments. How do you guys as an association combat those differences?
So it's important that we make sure that all of our communities see the same type of economic vitality as our urban communities have seen. And economic development is really different in every community. You have our communities that are truly rural on the Eastern Plains and on the Western Slope that are very heavily agriculturally based. But then you also have, our communities that are heavy in tourism. But then you have the population that is servicing the tourism. So, who are living in the bedroom cities and towns that are on the outside of our tourism locations. And so it's very important that they have just as much amenities available to them and services that help them live and thrive in those communities. But then we also have some of our heavy manufacturing communities as well. So we try very hard to spread the education, networking, professional development, as well as really supporting them through policy advocacy and looking for ways that communities can really incentivize businesses to locate or to grow within those communities so that they can keep up their tax base.
Awesome. That is great to hear. I know that OEDIT has some programs as well dedicated to ensuring that we are being inclusive.
That's correct. We do. So OEDIT has Advanced Industries Accelerator Program. They also have a Rural Jumpstart Program. We can't be remiss to involve the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, who works on our Main Street programs and broadband and spreading broadband throughout our communities, and that has been a huge help in helping our rural communities get back up to speed, as well as our Colorado Workforce Development Council's Talent Found, who's looking for and connecting employees to employers. And creating a place that employers can really go to find their necessary employees, because I think that's also a major part of our rural communities not being able to help our businesses grow. Just in certain, some of my travels throughout the state, hearing from their local business owners, the number one issue that they have is looking for talented employees, and being able to not only find them within their community, possibly growing them within the community through the educational system, but also in apprenticeship models, but then also, recruiting them into the community.
Oh, lovely.
Can be a big issue.
Yes. As we know, I like to think that Colorado has a unique economy. I moved here myself a little over 9 years ago now, and this is one place that I'll probably never leave. So you have my input in the workforce forever now. But that being said, one great thing that Colorado does over and over again that I see is this collaboration, right? Across industries, across regions. Colorado's amazing at that, and it's made for a really great economy, right?
That's true. So we have several industry sector partnerships that have been collaborating now for several years throughout our state, including manufacturing and the healthcare sectors. And the point to that is, you bring your industry leaders around the table and they talk and discuss about some of the successes and challenges that they're having, and being able to open up that conversation and being, for those industry leaders to not be afraid to communicate what their successes have been, because they're helping each other raise all tides, if you will. And if they help one another out, then it helps the basic economy for their industry cluster. And industries like to actually cluster around each other because then they can utilize each other's resources and workforce. And we have found that it has been extremely successful to see the manufacturing sector partnership and healthcare partnerships working together in order to, take care of some of those issues like finding nurses who are, in this rapid decline, or how do we work on infrastructure and exporting and importing. There's all kinds of industry, issues that plague the industries, and if they're working together, then they can minimize some of those barriers and issues that plague them and create a successful environment for them to work in.
That is lovely to hear. And I personally like hearing when entities are teaming up for a better good for all of us, right? When you come together, as you mentioned, that rising tide does raise all boats, and it is something that I think Colorado is doing well. We're actually quite the national model for a lot of other entities that are focused on economic development, are we not?
That is correct. So regionalism is at the center core of economic development for Colorado. For the longest time, we were a bust and boom state between, our oil and gas industry, as well as we had a major tech boom and bust in the early 90s. And so a lot of leaders came together to figure out how are we going to diversify our economic base so that we don't have to go through these bust and boom cycles. And we haven't seen a bust and boom cycle since the early 90s. So we have done a tremendous amount of work to ensure the success of that diversity. But that takes a lot of people that have to come together, and they have to work and make sure that they're not poaching or trying to take business away from, other, communities. If a business is needing to expand or relocate, we'd rather have them expand and relocate within the state of Colorado, because it's going to be a good for the state of Colorado as a whole, than for them to relocate in another state. And so we have a lot of several different regional models. Probably the most well-known is the regional model that's happening in the Metro Denver area, where, if a company is needing to expand or relocate and can find those, what's going to work best for them in a different community, then that community that they're already in works to help get them relocated in the community nearby. Because tax dollars, they might stay within a town or city border, but their workforce doesn't. They transcend. And, what's good for the business is what's good for Colorado.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Strong business equals strong economy equals strong Colorado. I want to get into a few facts. I know that we talked a little bit about a did you know list about some economic development things. If you don't mind touching in on those facts for me.
Yeah, so I think that some folks might be, what does your job consist of? I get that a lot. What is economic development? Why do we do it? And economic development can revitalize our neighborhoods through what we call placemaking or strategic planning. Our professionals help our entrepreneurs by achieving their dreams by expediting and permitting licensing and gap financing. Existing businesses expand through our services to help them build out infrastructure improvements, export assistance. New businesses, we help new businesses find sites and workers by providing community and economic data, site improvements, incentive negotiations. We help promote our communities by advocating for business-friendly policies. So we're very active at the legislature. And we partner with our business and workforce development organizations like the Colorado Business Roundtable, as well as our workforce development organizations to design training programs for workers to help fill supply chain needs. And then we work very closely with EDA, but we also, as economic developers, come into communities, for instance, like Estes Park, when they experienced that major flood, to work on pre-disaster planning, post-disaster recovery, and then long-term resiliency.
Awesome. So there, as we know right now, Colorado's economy is very strong. As a matter of fact, I believe we were named the #1 best economy by U.S. News and among the top 10 best states for millennials by Wallet Hub and #4 best state to live in as ranked by USA Today. Those are amazing accomplishments, and I would not dispute any of those. That being said, there's probably this train of thought of, if the economy is so good, why should I invest in economic development?
I'm so glad you asked that question. We get this a lot, especially in our rural communities. But really, a strong economy is actually the best time to be investing in people and places for the future payoff and to continue growing our tax base. We leverage the economic growth to expand opportunities, which include helping our marginalized populations enter into the workforce. We help businesses tap into diverse labor pools and help our entrepreneurs and small businesses start and expand and improve our educational systems and offerings. So without having that strong economy, we wouldn't necessarily be able to do all those things. And so if we're raising all of those parts of our economy that sometimes we often don't think about, we can then get through the downturn in the economy. So it's always important that we're always focusing on what is our 5 to 10 year plan.
Yes, and city planning is very important. Economic planning is very important. As any good business leader knows, you need to plan for that 5 to 10 years. We have just about 5 minutes left here, Kim, and I want to, one of the reasons that I also delayed in having this conversation about Economic Development Week was so that we can get people on board now for next year's Economic Development Week. So if you would, I'm going to ask you to give a little pitch here on who or what businesses you would like to see participate next year.
The more that we can spread the word about the importance of economic development, I think the more that we can really make an impact, a greater impact in our communities across the state. So we'd really love to be able to see everyone come to the table to tell us a story about why economic development was important to them and why it's important to their community. And that can encompass array of organizations and businesses, business leaders, elected officials. We'd love to hear from our mayors, from our commissioners, from our legislators, what was so important about economic development that really helped our state get to where it is today? What types of policies and programs did we pass to help the programs be successful in our state? And then what has our economic development professionals done to really pose an economic impact in our communities? And so I would love to hear from our business leaders who benefited from programs, because not every business understands or realizes that we're there for them as a resource. And so when they're faced with a major issue like shipping or taxes or, even when it came down to the internet taxes, that we're there working in the background to make sure that that we're there to help them be successful.
Awesome. I love hearing that. And Kim, in the last few minutes here, on a more personal note, looking into the future, what is EDCC working on? What can we see from you guys 2019 to 2020?
We are working on a brand new website for our members to be able to be active and connect with each other on our membership portal. We have convened all of our data experts throughout the state, including CU Boulder, CSU, UCCS. We've got the state demographer. We've got our Department of Labor and Statistics. We've got some amazing talent on this committee who's pulling together resources, webinars, and workshops on data literacy, as well as our professional development offerings that we always offer throughout the year. So we have a lot going on. We've been partnering with all kinds of different organizations throughout our state to bring more benefit to our members. And we also do our regional events that really pull in all of the communities, leaders and elected officials, and bringing them together in a forum and having them discuss what successes and challenges that they're having in their communities and bringing them to the forefront. So we have a lot going on.
Yes, you do. And I love hearing that. You want to also hear, we love hearing about successes, as always, right? Those are heartwarming and amazing. But I love that you're interested in hearing some failures, right? And that's how people learn and grow. Kim, it has been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for taking some time out to join me today. Real quick, where can we find more information about EDCC?
At edcconline.org.
Awesome. Kim, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And for my audience out there, again, visit edcconline.org. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. You can find this podcast and more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Type in Economic Development Council of Colorado, EDCC, Kim Woodworth. You can find this podcast. You can find our previous show that we've had Kim on as well. And be sure to sign up for our newsletter while you're visiting cobrt.com. Kim, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.